Parshas B'Shalach. This week's Parsha talks about the Exodus. B'Shalach means when he sent. That's Prero sending the children of Israel out of Egypt. And the verse in chapter Yud Gimel, Pasuk Tes, that's 13:19, says as follows: Vayikach Moshe es atzmos Yosef imo. And Moshe took the bones of Joseph with him. Ki hashbeya hishbiya es bnei Yisrael lemor, because he caused the children of Israel to take an oath, saying, Pakod yivkod Elokim eschem, God will remember you. V'ha'alisem es atzmosai mizeh itchem, and you will take up my bones with you from here. Meaning you'll take me to the land of Israel to bury me there. So a number of questions arise from this verse. Number one, it says he caused the children of Israel to swear. And this is a recapitulation of the episode in Bereshis where he called his brothers and caused them to swear. So the question is, why his brothers? When Yaakov was about to die and he wanted to be buried in Canaan, the land of Israel, he called Yosef. Yosef had children there. He certainly had at least Ephraim and Manasseh, who were quite capable, and he could have told them to, he could have charged them with his burial. Why does it say he charged the Bnei Yisrael, which is a much broader, the children of Israel, it's basically everybody. And why, again, unlike his father Yaakov, why didn't he ask to be buried immediately in Israel? Why did he say, okay, after God remembers you, which is a language of redemption, or in this case, certainly, when Hashem redeems you, meaning the children of Israel, then you'll take me up. Why not? I'll not take Bereni b'Mitzrayim. Don't bury me in Egypt. Take me to the burial place of my fathers. Maybe not Maras HaMachpelah, but to Shechem, which is where ultimately he was buried, or anywhere else. Why not in Israel? And finally, why was it Moshe specifically who dealt with Atzmos Yosef, who dealt with Yosef's bones, and not someone else? So the Medrash about the first verse, why did he charge his brothers? And so he had something of a rocky relationship with his brothers, leading to the ultimate revelation. And he settled with them, but there are indications, certainly in the words of the sages in the Talmud and elsewhere, that even after they had their meeting and their reconciliation, the brothers weren't always secure in their confidence. They weren't always confident that the whole episode had been closed. And this is one way. The Gemara in Sotah and the Medrash says that this brings closure. The Gemara doesn't talk about closure, but it says, "Mimakom she lekachtani l'sham tachziruni." From the place that you took me, Shechem, to there you will return me. There's a symbolic closure there, and it symbolizes the complete repair of the familial rupture, of the disruption of the family relationship. Okay, so that's why perhaps he caused his brothers to swear, not just his own children. This was bigger than just his kids. Why didn't he go immediately? Why didn't he say, take me out of here, get me out of here, bury me in Canaan? So Rashi has a pragmatic answer. He says, once Yosef died, the children of Israel didn't have any particular sway with the government, with the king. Unlike when Yaakov passed away, Yosef was a ruler. He was second in command. His power began to wane after he buried Yaakov. But at that point, he had the power to cause Yaakov to be buried in Canaan. And in fact, he did, with a huge entourage. But Rashi says the children of Yosef didn't have the similar power, and they simply weren't capable. The Shach actually says that he could have been buried in Canaan immediately, but he made a strategic choice to wait, to have his remains wait for the redemption. He wanted to encourage the children of Israel. He wanted to give strength, to give chizuk to the Bnei Yisrael, to withstand the oppression of the slavery, and to hold on for the geula, for the ultimate redemption. And his being there, or his remains being there, was a symbol of emunah, of confidence. Because Yosef, when he said, take up my bones, he said, God will redeem you. Pakod yivkod Elokim eschem. God will redeem you, and he'll take you out, and I want you to take me as well. And this was something that was passed on to the generations. Rashi comments that the language of hashbeya hishbiya, it doesn't just say hishbiya es b'nei Yisrael, hashbeya hishbiya. He cause them to swear, to cause their children to swear, to take upon themselves this achrayus, this responsibility. The very responsibility is a sense of mission, and that sense of mission contributed to the ability of the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, to hang on until the redemption. Now, on a somewhat similar but distinct approach is that of the Elshach, who says that Yosef understood that the trek to Israel might be difficult. And he felt that if the children of Israel were carrying his Aharon, his coffin, with his remains, that they would indeed have the sense of mission even after the redemption, and they wouldn't be worn out by the trek and decide not to complete their mission. Now, finally, our third question was, why Moshe Rabbeinu specifically? Certainly he could have delegated this to somebody else, but he grabbed this opportunity. And the Medrash emphasizes that he really didn't have the responsibility. There are some who say that, well, if the nation as a whole has the responsibility, so that the leader of the nation has the responsibility. While it's true, he could have delegated this task to someone else. But the Medrash says, praising Moshe, Ata lo beno v'lo ben beno v'lo ha'yisach chayav la'asok bo. You're not his son. You're not his grandson. You're not a descendant of Yosef at all. You didn't have the obligation to bury him, but nevertheless, you dealt with him and you set him up to ultimately to be buried in Israel. So the Mechilta sees this as an expression of Moshe's chavivus, the delight he had, the dearness he had for doing the mitzvahs. That where were the rest of the children of Israel? They were doing another mitzvah. What was the other mitzvah? The other mitzvah was fulfillment of that the promise that Hashem made to Avram Avinu was that after the redemption they would go out with a lot of possessions, gold, silver, etc. And so they were busy collecting all of the wealth of Egypt. And Moshe did not get involved in collecting the wealth of Egypt, but rather he was involved in the burial. And as a result, he was rewarded. What was his reward? His reward was that just like each of the personalities in this chain of burial, death in Egypt or death outside of Israel, was Zocha, merited to be buried by a great person. So Yaakov passed away. Yosef took upon himself to fulfill his promise, and he buried Yaakov. He therefore merited to be buried by Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu merited to be buried by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was no human being greater than Moshe, but God was and is, and God did the burial. So I was speaking earlier today with Rabbi Chaim Twerski, and he raised an interesting point. He said, indeed, why did Moshe get involved in this? It really wasn't his obligation, echoing the Medrash. And the Medrash quotes a verse which is perplexing, because the Medrash quotes a verse from Mishlei, and it says, you did it yourself? The verse in Mishlei says, Chacham le vikach mitzvos. A smart person will take mitzvos. The question is, what kind of mitzvah is this? There was a mitzvah to fulfill the promise to Avram Avinu. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu expresses it as, Noah, please take the wealth of Egypt with you. And the Mefarshim say so that Avram Avinu, to whom Hashem made this original promise, shouldn't be disappointed. It's a lashon malitza. It's a lyrical way of expressing this. But at the end of the day, Moshe could have done that, and instead chose to do this. He chose to do this, but it's characterized as a mitzvah. And Rabbi Twerski suggests that that's because besides what's in Shulchan Aruch, there's also a person does good things that are not universally applicable, universally mandatory, but he understands that it's the right thing to do. And when he does that, it's considered a mitzvah. In other words, there's a baseline, and then there's what applies only to people of certain stature. Different people hear a different call. Some people hear a call of chesed. Some people hear a call to do a hidur or mitzvah in a performance of lighting candles, of tefillin, of lulav and esrog, and other people in building institutions. For each person who feels that particular need, who hears that call, you might consider him to be chosen by the Almighty to fulfill that mission, because not everybody hears that call. Not everybody gets that mitzvah. But Moshe Rabbeinu felt it, and he performed it. The Chovos HaLevavos says, although there is, for the entire nation, there is chiyuv, there's isser, there's what we must do, what we must not do, and then there's a category called reshus, which is it's optional. But he says when it comes to every individual, we all know, or we should develop a sense of what's the best thing for me to be doing right now. And whatever that best thing is, that becomes an obligation. Moshe Rabbeinu knew it. We can know it too. Have a good chance.